it?
Yes, it is visible.
Wonderful. So let's move to the last topic of today, to another digital way or tool, which can be employed for both online teaching, or for teaching beyond online teaching for that matter as well. But it also can be used, of course, as a way to popularize research, which is done in the humanities. I'm talking about educational video games. I think that we most likely all agree that video games actually very actively contribute to construct perceptions of norms, of values, of identities, and with that, of course, of society in general. And also that games are increasingly complex, interactive virtual worlds, which, among other things, of course, can be employed or used for transmitting information or knowledge about certain subjects. And especially educational games do that in a very conscious and straightforward way because they are developed specifically to do precisely that, to either teach or in a more subtle way to draw attention to certain topics, to offer background knowledge on certain things. We have quite a number of studies by today which speak about the additional benefit of the immersion and emotional factors of educational games, which they offer as an additional value as compared to more traditional teaching. And by the way, studies also, without any exception, speak about the economic and cultural and social influence of video games and their overall increasing importance as innovative digital genre in society. For instance, just to give you one example, for numbers, market reports in the UK in 2018 have proven that games are more lucrative than video and music combined. And to highlight the cultural and social influence of video games, it is important to keep in mind that games contribute to influence and even develop the value and knowledge systems of both gamers, but also of people who don't play games themselves. That is, people who are, for instance, in communication with gamers. Now, given this immense importance and influence, one necessary consequence should be responsible video games, be they educational or not, are actually should be developed by people who have a solid education in cultural and social issues in SSH. The research on educational video games and their development has thrived as a kind of an academic subfield in, let's say, the past 10 years. Mishra and Forster in 2007 were among the first ones who presented a comprehensive publication on the subject, and they make 5 claims, which you can see here, which are really still relevant today for using games for learning purposes. And that is the development of cognitive, practical, physiological, and social skills and motivations. Game-based learning and utilizing game-based environments for teaching have since been increasingly discussed since these past 10 years. And sometimes we also find the term edutainment, which was introduced by Michael and Chen in 2006, who examine specifically educational games development and games as edutainment. Increasingly, and this is just to give you a broader picture, increasingly we also find academic events worldwide which aim at bringing together scholars from the disciplines of technology and education. So we have some examples here. All of them are from 2018. When it comes to the existing educational games, we can clearly see that A, most of the games focus on kids as the players, as an audience, and B, these games educate almost exclusively on natural science subjects, that is especially mathematics, and also some focus on language learning, of course. That is to say that the full potential of educational games, be it for schools or for higher education, still has to unfold. Educational games for the humanities, for subjects in humanities and social sciences, that is games which teach, for instance, about history, about culture, about society, are still largely a miss. But why is this so? Given that the fact that, as we heard earlier, quite a number of studies actually speak about the additional benefit of the immersion, of the emotional factors of educational games. Game narratives in both educational games and non-educational games do actually affect meaning making and society building in general. In order to illustrate what educational video games for the humanities may look like and how they may be developed, let me give you one example. Grounded in the wish to extend the benefits of educational games to my own academic discipline, which is South Asian Studies, that is research and teaching on, in my case, especially India, and the culture and society broadly. Now, grounded in this wish to do an educational video game for South Asian Studies, I initiated a collaboration with an Indian game development studio with flying robots in Kolkata. And my idea and wish was to develop an educational game introducing selected core aspects of Indian culture and society by taking one example, and we decided to use the arguably most popular Indian festival, Durga Puja, as a content example for the game. This festival, Durga Puja, is today not only widely celebrated all over India, but the festival has traveled with migrant communities all over the world. And by today, it is also a highly important event in the global Indian communities, including in Helsinki, for instance. So with some seed funding from the University of Helsinki, we started out to develop a game. And this is the first ever educational video game to teach Indian culture and society. And we are really convinced it has big potential. I have been using it in teaching for the first time this academic year. The feedback by students was fantastic, actually. There are still technical issues we fiddle with a bit, but overall it was really well received. The game is developed as something targeting university students specifically, and these are students who usually don't have any background yet on Indian culture and society. That is, it's developed as an introduction to Indian culture and society. The game is a third-person adventure game for Windows PC, and it's filled with mystery. It uses educational puzzles, riddles, and tasks. It takes place inside this mansion. You can see it's quite a majestic heritage mansion near Kolkata in India. And of course, it plays during the time of Durga Puja. The game is open access, which of course was very important to us. Everyone is invited to play. And when you play, as the player, you are subjected to these educational tasks, to investigative puzzles, and all of them gradually inform about Durga Puja. During the game, the player collects various items, including reference books, texts, images, objects, and they can help with the investigation and play a key part in winning the game, actually. And simultaneously, and as characteristic for educational games, these items also, of course, introduce the various key themes related to Durga Puja. So they really support the player in their educational and academic quest. The game takes about 60 to 90 minutes to play, depending on the options that the player chooses. And as visuals say more than any words, let us have a brief look at the game trailer for this game. So there are conversations going on. Some of them have more of an educational character. For instance, this one, a talk with the grandfather of the house. There is a lot of exploring of the player. And also, this is the guidance we give. We have a book collection, books, texts which can and should be consulted. We also have an image collection, so that some visuals are there beyond what we provide in the game. These are the photographs which the player can pull out at any time in the game. This image gallery, as we called it. There are small quizzes. And yes, the task is to finally come up with the solution of the Durga Puja mystery. In order to situate this educational game within a broader educational context, we also decided to have a really clearly structured and providing more content info website. So there is much information, context information, which is freely available there. We have guest lectures from experts on Durga Puja and on Indian festivals. We have certain academic blog posts. We have recordings of video lectures and so on, which are usable by the students. Now, of course, in contrast to podcasts, for instance, as we heard earlier, the development of educational video games is not an inexpensive thing. Small things like this video game, they are still within a sort of accessible budget, but larger games which are more elaborate, they are very, very expensive to produce. So we needed some funders, we got some funders, we are grateful for that, for this opportunity which we got. And to conclude, let me just repeat that overall the role of games and gaming worldwide is certainly constantly increasing. There is no doubt about that. And games, and that is not only educational games, will be a major source of information in the future. And currently, globally, game developers and academics seek to experiment with this potential of video games. When it comes to games with a declared educational goal, we hope that with our first try for South Asian studies, with the Durga Puja mystery, that we will somehow trigger a development which might bring about more, and certainly also more diverse educational or serious games, as they're sometimes also called, with cultural and social content. Thanks.